Greetings, true believers, and welcome to another top-secret episode of History of the Marvel Universe. Today we're looking at the origin of Nick Fury, Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Originally introduced as Sergeant Fury, Nick was the leader of the Howling Commandos, a racially integrated army unit that fought during World War II. Fury and his team valiantly fought and won many battles, encountering villains such as Baron Wolfgang von Strucker, who later became a top leader in Hydra. During one mission to destroy a new Nazi weapon behind enemy lines, a German soldier tossed a grenade at the Howling Commandos. Acting quickly, Fury caught the explosive and tossed it back. However, the grizzled non-com was a moment too late and the grenade exploded in mid-air, sending shards of shrapnel hurtling into Fury's left eye. With enemy soldiers inbound, Fury stayed behind and bought enough time for the rest of his unit to escape. Fury stole a set of clothes and tried to lay low, but he was inevitably recognized by German officers, having grown infamous due to his exploits. Fortunately, a German soldier named Erich Koenig defected from the Nazis and helped Fury steal a plane and escape from Nazi Germany. Unfortunately, while the Allied doctor was able to patch Fury up, without emergency surgery he would one day completely lose vision in his left eye, and Fury wasn't willing to take the year off necessary for such a procedure. In the years that followed, Nick Fury achieved the rank of colonel, became an agent for the CIA, and of course eventually donned his iconic eye patch. Eventually, Colonel Fury was tapped to become the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., an international spy network and counter-terrorism agency to battle the likes of Hydra, AIM, and the Secret Empire. However, this left the question of how Fury survived so long without becoming an old man. Well, as it turns out, during World War II, Fury was injured after stumbling into a minefield while evading a Nazi patrol. Fortunately, Allied partisans found the injured Fury and brought him to a nearby doctor, Professor Sternberg. However, Sternberg saw fit to use the unconscious Fury as a test subject for an experimental serum, the Infinity Formula. And then, months after the end of the war, Fury received a letter and a package containing a small inoculator from Sternberg. Fury decided to err on the side of caution and have the contents of the inoculator studied, but the following morning Fury awoke to find that he had aged 60 years in a single night. As it turns out, with the Infinity Formula in his blood, Fury would require an annual injection to prevent his rapid aging. However, continuing to take a shot of the formula every year would vastly extend his youth, allowing him to remain in fighting condition for decades. For years, Fury had a simple arrangement with Sternberg: annual doses of the Infinity Formula in exchange for money. This was until Sternberg was assassinated by a man named S.H.I.E.L.D. Harris, a criminal who the doctor tried to extort in the same way. After killing Sternberg and learning his secrets, S.H.I.E.L.D. Harris attempted to blackmail Fury, offering him his required doses of the Infinity Formula in exchange for turning a blind eye to his illegal activities. Before any agreement could be reached, however, the Infinity Formula was stolen by a third party. With both their lives on the line, Fury and S.H.I.E.L.D. went after the thief. Fury proposed a truce, but S.H.I.E.L.D. Harris didn't trust the agent, and the two men fought as they both rapidly aged. In the end, of course, Fury prevailed, S.H.I.E.L.D. Harris died, and it turned out the thief was actually La Contessa Valentina Allegra de la Fontaine, an ally of Fury who then turned the secrets of the Infinity Formula over to him. However, this wasn't the last time someone would be interested in obtaining the Infinity Formula. Fast forward a few years, and here we meet Army Ranger Sergeant Marcus Johnson and his friend and comrade in arms, Cheese. Johnson and Cheese were good soldiers who were stationed in the Middle East during the time of the Serpent's War, when Odin's brother Kull, the god of fear, launched an assault on the Earth, spreading fear and panic across the globe. Of course, Earth's superhuman heroes defeated the Serpent, but when the dust settled and the fighting was over, Marcus Johnson received the tragic news that his mother was killed by looters in the riots during the Serpent War. Marcus returned to the States to attend his mother's funeral, but when he investigated her home where she was killed, he found something that didn't make sense. the shell casing of a Russian armor-piercing round. And sure enough, shortly after this discovery, the professional killers who had murdered his mother returned for Marcus. While Johnson was able to defeat the killers, he was unprepared for the arrival of the supervillain mercenary known as Taskmaster. Fortunately, Captain America himself arrived on the scene to battle the villain, and Marcus was rescued by Daisy Johnson, aka Quake, the superhuman director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Marcus Johnson was brought back to S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters for debriefing and medical attention, but while he was being kept there, Marcus began to suspect that there were things they weren't telling him, particularly when they began holding him against his will. Sergeant Johnson surprised his guards and fought his way out, escaping S.H.I.E.L.D. custody before calling in his friend Cheese for help. His goal? Find Taskmaster and get answers. With the intel they had, Marcus and Cheese were able to find and interrogate men who trained under Taskmaster and locate one of his safe houses. Once he arrived, Deadpool attacked Johnson, but then Taskmaster attacked Deadpool, and Cheese attacked Taskmaster, and when the Serpent Society showed up looking for Marcus, all hell broke loose. In the confusion, Marcus was able to pull aside and interrogate Taskmaster, who implied that his father, who Marcus thought was dead, had all of the answers. After some persuasion, Taskmaster did give up the name of the man who had the bounty on Johnson's head, Orion. However, their conversation was interrupted by a man dressed as Fury's old enemy Scorpio, who warned Marcus to run away from all this before knocking him out and disappearing. Fortunately, Johnson was recovered by Cheese, who helped him get away from the superhuman scuffle unfolding nearby. Marcus was determined to go after this Orion, but he refused to allow Cheese to put his life on the line for him any further, and back at their motel room, Marcus knocked his friend out. Scorpio watched as Johnson left the motel, but it seems the Army Ranger had some tricks of his own as he tracked Scorpio back to his hideout. Marcus unmasked his mysterious attacker and discovered that this Scorpio was in fact Nick Fury in disguise, and Fury revealed the secret origin of Marcus Johnson. 30 years prior, during Fury's time with the CIA, he met and grew intimately close with a fellow agent named Nia Jones. The two of them conceived a child whose true parentage needed to be kept secret in order to protect it. Nia changed her name, her career, and her entire life to keep her son safe. Even the child's legal birth name had to be changed to Marcus Johnson. However, after nearly 3 decades of secrecy, one of Fury's enemies discovered Marcus's existence. Viktor Uvarov, aka Orion, the once mighty leader of the Russian terror cell known as Leviathan, now an old man growing closer to death. Uvarov knew that the one thing that could restore him to the strength of his youth was the Infinity Formula. And while the chemicals in Fury's blood were beginning to break down, Marcus Johnson had the Infinity Formula baked into his very DNA. Yes, unbeknownst to him, the Infinity Formula he inherited from his father had made Sergeant Johnson slightly stronger and faster than normal men. Johnson was angry at Fury, blaming him for his mother's death, but while the two men fought, Orion's troops arrived, gassing and capturing them both. While the two Furies were bound, Uvarov made the comment that he didn't see the family resemblance between them. His solution to this was to have one of his men slash Johnson across the face and pull out his left eye. While the attention was off of himself, the Elder Fury took the opportunity to escape his bonds and attack, freeing Marcus, who plummeted down a sewer grate while Orion's men tackled Fury. Uvarov drained the Infinity Formula from Fury's bloodstream, injecting it into himself and restoring his youth and strength. Orion knew that the transformation was only temporary, but confirmed from the tissue sample they had forcefully extracted from Marcus that Johnson's body, having been born with the Infinity Formula in his blood, would produce it without the need of annual injections. And so, for a more permanent solution, Orion needed Marcus Johnson. Johnson, however, was not willing to give up and fought back against Uvarov and his men. While the Russian lackeys were no match for Marcus, Orion himself gained the upper hand in their battle. Fortunately for Marcus, Cheese had planted a tracking device on him and arrived in the nick of time with Captain America and the agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. in tow. The battle raged, but in the end, Marcus Johnson finished Viktor Uvarov by planting an incendiary device on his chest. Marcus was a little worse for wear from the fiery explosion, but he survived. In the aftermath of the battle, Fury visited his son as he recovered, revealing that the last of the Infinity Formula that had been keeping him alive for decades was finally used up. Soon time would begin to catch up with him, and he would be an old man. Then, for the first time, instead of telling him what to do, Fury offered his son a choice: start over with a new life, or use his skills to make a difference. Marcus chose to follow in his father's footsteps. He became an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. and took the name his mother intended for him: Nick Fury Jr. Cheese joined up with S.H.I.E.L.D. as well, but he also did so using his real name, Phil Coulson. And that's the origin story of Nick Fury and Nick Fury. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, please leave a like, leave a comment, and share it on your favorite social media. As always, the issues referenced in this video are listed in the description below if you would like to read them for yourself, as well as links to my various social medias if you want more Merry Marvel goodness. So until next time, true believers, Excelsior!